Hi everyone. Thanks for watching or listening. Welcome to this latest episode of the Reach Out series, where we explore the intersections of human connection, technology, and mental well-being. I'm Yohay Elam, founder of TouchBase, an app that tackles loneliness by helping foster meaningful connections, not any connections. And today, I'm thrilled to be speaking with Eli Strzelecka, the founder of Conspicuis and the mind behind the playful and thought-provoking Guilt Gallery. We'll discuss mental health, AI, loneliness, the role of shame, and how technology, art, and mental health can intertwine. Eli, thank you for joining us.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to this chat with you about AI and mental health. To me, our discussions are always super enriching, and I hope we can shed some light for people who are struggling themselves or just curious about the topic. So I'm personally very excited about the opportunities, and at the same time, of course, a little bit concerned about the potential harms that always come along with progress and innovation.
Mm. Yeah, there are lots to talk about indeed, and I hope I pronounced your last name more or less correctly. So before we jump into today's topics, I'd love to hear a bit more about you. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us how happiness became part of your professional journey?
Yeah, well, I think happiness should become part of everyone's professional journey. And joke aside, up until my mid-20s, I'd say, I thought of life as a series of tests to pass or fail. It was kind of embedded within me that my worth in life will depend on how impressive my education is, how impressive my husband is, and how impressive my job is. And kind of the golden standard was, I'm going to become a lawyer with an engineer or doctor husband. I'll get married before I'm 30, make two kids, buy a house. And so I powered myself through two masters in law. I was in a long-term relationship with a future engineer. I did all the things that I thought that I was supposed to do. But I love this saying, be careful what you wish for because you just may get it. And, doing everything right didn't lead to feeling right. So I went to a therapist at that time, and, it was against my family's wishes. And I was trying to figure out what's wrong with me for not being happy. And he helped me understand that I needed to think of a life that I would actually like and get to work on making some serious changes. And I love this image. Apparently, when Michelangelo was asked how he made the statue of David, he said he just removed everything that wasn't David. And I feel like that's a good analogy for what the past decade has looked like for me. I just kept removing things that made me feel despair, and somehow I ended up here building a mental health and AI company.
Oh, very interesting. So you already touched a bit on art and Michelangelo, and we'll get to that later. So let's dive a bit more into it. So from your perspective, all the world is talking about AI. How does AI impact mental health, both positively and, of course, negatively as well?
Yeah, so I think that both chatbots and image generation tools have incredible potential to improve people's mental health if they're used properly. LLMs can ingest a lot of incredible knowledge about mental health. And there's this myth that, a mental health conversation can only be meaningful if it's had with another human. And that's just not true. I
Mm.
turn to AI for compassion, for advice, for venting, brainstorming. I turn to it for a lot of things. In fact, it's so efficient at helping with mental health that I'm a bit concerned about the potential for addiction. What I
Mm.
don't want to see is a world where people turn away from each other and stop making efforts to cultivate meaningful relationships. And here's one tangible example that I can give you. I noticed that a lot of folks struggle with relationships because they don't know how to set boundaries in healthy ways. So they automatically say yes to others when they don't want something. They listen when they want to hang up. And connecting with others makes them lose themselves. And then they withdraw for fear of conflict. So I'd like to encourage, for example, these folks to ask AI for advice on how to approach their human interaction. It can teach you a lot about setting boundaries, delivering bad news, having difficult conversations. And relationships with humans aren't so mystical. You can learn how to be with others without depleting yourselves, and AI can really help with that. Same thing if you feel socially awkward, for example. AI can teach you how to approach people, what kinds of things to say to break the ice, and how you show that you're interested in someone's life enough to make a friend. So it's really on us who build in this field and bring such positive use case to light, because there's a real risk of people ending up more isolated as a result of using the tech.
Yeah, that's always a risk. And what you said about canceling yourself in a relationship, it's something that happened to me in the past, and with various, well, romantic and also with friends. We didn't have AI back then, and now we can use it, but of course, as you said, in the right way. So, yeah, AI is playing an increasing role in mental health support, whether through therapy bots, diagnostics, predictive analytics. Do you see any ethical red flags or limitations we should be aware of?
Well, yeah, I'd say the best way to use AI for mental health is to do so under the supervision of a therapist. If something comes up, talk to your therapist about it. But the reality that we live in is that not everyone can afford a therapist. And even for the people who can, it's not always the first therapist who will be the right fit. And the right fit now will not necessarily be the right fit forever. So that's why tools like, BetterHelp, for example, are great. Once you find your budget to, have a therapist, you're able to meet with different therapists until you find one with whom you click. And I think at this point, then you can use AI as a supplement to that. If you're not currently seeing a therapist, AI can be a great tool to help you manage symptoms. Just remember, it will never replace your need for human connection, and it doesn't negate the benefits of traditional therapy. So, in terms of ethics, obviously, any model is trained on whatever data was provided by the people who trained it. And so it follows whatever guidelines were built in by its creators. So when you see what terrorist groups, cult leaders, and conspirationists are able to achieve in terms of mind control, I am, of course, super scared of how that could be amplified if, for example, these guys started having their own AI agents preaching to them, to vulnerable populations. I think we already live in an age where we have so many conflicting sources of truth to choose from, and increasingly it becomes our own responsibility to decide where we get our information from. And it's true that the media, it's true with the press, and we also have to be careful when deciding, which AI we trust and to what extent.
Yeah, so the topic of trust, which is critical to so many things, also economics, for example, is also critical to choosing the right AI tool and also using it alongside humans. So I'll move to a topic that is closer to me here at TouchBase loneliness. What do you think are the main reasons people struggle with loneliness in today's digital world?
Yeah, well, I think we just need each other less and less. So, for example, today I'm able to wake up in the morning, work on my computer with the help of AI, do some yoga with a YouTube channel, order lunch without ever meeting the delivery guy, and then entertain myself on Netflix in the evening. I can then write an online post, get a dopamine hit from likes, and talk to AI about my feelings. And I see it flagrantly with Gen Z who grew up with social media. The online persona can drift so far away from the day to day self that it sets really impossible standards. We have fast food, fast fashion, fast dating, and the easier it comes, the less we tend to appreciate it. So I think today, anyone can be replaced, and there's always the promise of something better, something more exciting, just one click away. And that's why I love solutions like TouchBase, where tech is used to remind people to connect with each other. I think we need these reminders because our lives are no longer designed for nurturing lasting bonds. And I think that's really why we do have this loneliness epidemic that we're seeing.
Yeah, so maybe we need a bit more friction in life to make things a bit less easy, to give them a bit more meaning, which is opposite of what the tech world is doing. I want to move on to another thing that is powerful: shame. It's a powerful emotion that keeps people from reaching out. And how do you see the relationship between shame, technology, and connection?
Yeah, so I think shame has a lot to do with social desirability. For example, if I'm depressed and all I can talk about is how depressed I am, people will not want to interact with me anymore because I will be bringing them down. So the natural response is to hide these things. You know, we don't want to be defined by our mental health struggles, so we tend to keep them to ourselves. We either isolate or compensate. And that's why some of the funniest people are also the most depressed. You know, they compensate to preserve their social desirability. And whether we isolate or compensate, I think the loneliness creeps in because either one way or the other, we are not truly seen and loved for who we are. So I think being loved for a persona we created is just as lonely as not being loved at all. And that's why so many famous people commit suicide. AI today provides a safe and judgment-free environment to talk about all of these things, to first accept them within ourselves. And once we've done that, we can also get advice on how to communicate them to others while being respectful of their own needs for healthy connections. Coming out with mental health struggles to an AI is an amazing first step. You know, it can help with self-acceptance. It can help reduce the shame to a level where we are ready to open up to other human beings. And I can't stress this enough. The end goal must be connection with other people. If no one in your life really knows you, you will stay ashamed of who you are, and the loneliness will not go away.
Yeah, have to break out of this cycle. And one way you tackle it is through something you touched on before, art. So you have a unique perspective on the intersection of technology and art therapy. How do you see these two fields complementing each other?
Well, the process of artistic creation has incredible benefits for mental health. Just like anything to do with I think there will be a lot of controversy as some people don't believe that AI art is real art and they think prompting to generate artworks is not artistic creation. I've seen people find an incredible amount of healing through tools such as Midjourney or Dali, where before they would just have never considered themselves as artists. And the tech gave them an opportunity to express themselves in ways that were just not available to them previously. And I myself have started experimenting with non-clinical AI art therapy group sessions, during which we discuss various topics, we identify different feelings, and then we prompt to create artistic representations of problems, memories, sometimes feelings, or even aspirations. So art has definitely played a major role in my own mental health journey, and AI once more allows me to add a sense of inspiration and wonder into something that, you know, can be pretty grim day to day. So I think it's also a lot healthier to connect to each other through our AI art creations than our curated Instagram posts, for example, that tend to bring each other down.
Oh, well, very, very interesting perspective on how we use colors, how we use pictures in different ways, Instagram versus creating art. So do you think AI could play a meaningful role in art therapy? Or is there a limit to how much technology should intervene in human creativity?
Yeah, well, I think the nature of art is to push boundaries and explore things. So if a banana taped to a wall can be art, then why can't an AI generated image be art, you know? And if it is art, then why can't it be used in art therapy? I think a while ago people were screaming against photography. It still hasn't replaced paintings and sculptures, but it did help some folks connect to their creativity with the medium of a camera. And then people were screaming against digital art because it involved a computer. But really beautiful things have been made. And all of a sudden, there's some computer nerds out there who started having an outlet to express themselves and become artists. And there's a market today for that. And at the moment, what we're seeing is, AI art. And I, for one, am very happy to use it in my mental health work because it works. I do still think we need to be careful with the potential for addiction that it represents. What I don't like is seeing people spending their entire free time in front of a computer using AI to generate thousands of images. I think anything done compulsively and repetitively, it worries me a little bit when it starts replacing human interactions. So, yeah, with Conspicuous, we use art to foster meaningful discussions between people. And then the technology is available, and I can see that it can be used for good. But I know some people have an issue with its very existence. I just don't share that antagonism, and I'm not trying to convince them of anything. If someone loves painting and that's what's working for them, please go ahead and do that. But if you do need something, if you do want to try something, I think messing around with AI art could be very helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have no talent in painting anything, but I can use the computer but as you said, I'll try not to be all the time in front of the screen. So jumping back to loneliness and even things can get worse. There's a common assumption that mental illness and happiness are sort of complete opposites. But on the other hand, I've heard arguments that experiencing mental struggles can deepen one's capacity for joy. What are your thoughts on this relationship?
Well, that's such a complex question, and I'm going to be perfectly real with you. I have had suicidal thoughts consistently since a very early age, and I've experienced really deep emotional pain consistently from a very early age. I've struggled with a lot of addictive behavior, risky behavior. I've put myself in harm's way many times. And my default state is a pretty sense of deep emotional pain. And I know among the people who are listening, there will be someone who gets it. In every single room that I go, there's always someone who gets it. And if you don't get it, I can assure you that you know someone who gets it. And so many people really die ashamed and never knowing that they were never alone. I don't think you can think yourself into happiness. I think for many people, life is hard. There's deep trauma involved, financial struggles, abusive situations. I think it would be an insult to all these people to say, hey, they should just be happy regardless of their reality, their past, or their genes. But if your brain is wired to self-destruct, you will have to manage that your whole life. And I guess my message is that you don't have to do it alone and you don't have to be ashamed. What I can offer is a place where people can come, give some nice tech a go, relieve some of that anguish, come make art with us, talk to us, because we're more than just our pain. Life is also fun. It's good to laugh. It's good to connect. It's good to create. I think we're very, very multi-layered. And honestly, when you remove the fear that there's something broken inside of you and that you're screwed, you have activities you enjoy, people you like to be around. Of course, you can feel a ton of joy. You're not banned from joy because you're depressed or anxious or traumatized or addicted. You can have all these issues and at the same time feel a sense of hope and a sense of purpose while you work on yourself. And I guess, the joy is probably deeper for people who struggle with their mental health because it's harder to get. It takes more effort. So naturally, when it comes, we tend to appreciate it more.
Got it. Yeah. So it's a complicated relationship, but there is a path forward. So we talked about mental illness. Do you think that people who have struggled with mental illness can turn it into a driving force for positive change in their lives?
Honestly, I think if you've ever seriously struggled with mental illness, you have to turn it into a driving force for positive change. I don't see another way around. If you don't, your emotional suffering will lead you to do things to escape it that only makes it worse. My own experience with mental illness is that it doesn't stagnate. Either you work to make it better or you allow it to get worse. But if you don't sublimate it, if you don't give it meaning, if you don't use it to help others in any way, it kind of becomes a curse and everything gets dark. So I think the biggest problem is really not that the pain is there, but rather that we don't know what to do with it. And once you know what to do with it, it's actually really not so bad. I know that when I talk about my experience, other people who feel the same way, they feel relieved, and that makes me feel relieved. And honestly, what I need a lot more than feeling good all the time is feeling like my life isn't useless. And I hope Conspicuous can be a place where anyone can come, connect with all the beautiful things they have to offer to the world, because I don't think it's the fear that is a lot bigger problem than the actual symptoms.
Yeah, the fear, the shame, these are powerful forces, but acknowledging them can help. So what drives you forward in your work? What keeps you motivated?
Well, every day I wake up and I get to speak with people like you who, I realize that loneliness is a problem, and then I stumble onto someone like you and you realize that it's a problem, and then we become friends and we kind of, share the journey. And then I speak, about my struggles, and then someone comes to speak about theirs and feels less alone and feels relieved. So, I get that kind of positive feedback. The stage we're at with Conspicuous, I don't know how long we'll be doing this. I don't know if it's going to take off or die down, but I think every day we talk about these issues, every day we provide spaces for people to talk about them, is never a wasted day. So that's
Mm.
why I'm super grateful on a daily basis of everything, I'm able to do in this field, because I didn't used to have a purpose. I didn't used to have meaning in my life. So having that today is just feeling great. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it drives us. It drives us forward. Sense of purpose, of meaningful. So you talked about Conspicuous, and if people want to support your work, whether with Conspicuous or anything else, what is the best way they can do that?
You can join our Discord community. You can join our AI art therapy sessions. You can join our beta tester list. There's 100 ways you can help. So yeah, if anything resonated today, just reach out to me, and I'd love every bit of help that I can get.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure this conversation has resonated with many people. You've been brave, opening up, and yeah, there are many. We'll share all the links, of course, so people can support Conspicuous. So we're getting closer to the finish line, and I always like to end on a high note. What gives you hope, optimism about our ability in general to combat the loneliness epidemic moving forward?
Honestly, there's just so much hope. I talk with people who have had the same experience of emotional suffering and who also decided not to sit in it and let it take over their lives. I don't think we're mistakes. We're not doomed from misery. And there's just so much more to life than the pain. So I don't know, in a weird way, just knowing that so many people feel lonely, it kind of also tells you that you are the friend that someone is looking for. And I think that is hopeful. If you were the only person feeling lonely, then that would be concerning. But because there's different people, why don't we try and connect with each other? And that's the only way to stop it. And I think it's really available to us. It is at our fingertips. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, it's I think from a song of Billy Joel. They share a drink called loneliness. I think it's from Piano Man. So if so many people are lonely, they can be lonely together. They have one thing at least in common. So thank you very much, Eli, for joining us today. That was fascinating, and thank you for everybody listening. I invite you to follow TouchBase on social media or get touchbase.com. Yeah, Eli, this has been such a thought-provoking conversation. Again, thank you very much for sharing all your insights on AI, mental health, loneliness, shame, creativity. Amazing.
Well, thanks so much, Yohay. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I always do. And yeah, I hope others will join our conversations, and we can have some more interesting discussions. I'm all about it.
All right. So thank you very much. And to our listeners, again, I'm sure this conversation resonated with you. So don't forget to reach out, connect, keep the dialogue going, and see you next time on the next episode of TouchBase Reach Out. Thank you very much.